Hi, this video is part of the scientific programming lecture at the University of Bremen, and in this video I would like to show you how you can install a Lubuntu operating system, a Linux operating system as an application in your already existing so-called host operating system. It will work if you have Linux as host operating system, it will work if you have Windows as host operating system, and it should even work if you have Mac OS as host operating system, provided that the processor in your device is not the M1 processor, but an older model. In order to do so, we will need some prerequisites first. We will need the Virtualbox virtualization software, which you can download from the virtualbox.org website, as you can see it here. If you have a Linux host operating system, you can just install it as a package. If you have Mac OS or Windows, just download it from the virtualbox.org website. And we will need the Lubuntu operating system, the ISO, so-called ISO image of the Lubuntu operating system. We will take version 22.04 version, and this version at the time when this video is recorded is only available as beta, but when you watch this video, probably it's already available as a long-term stable, as the actual long-term stable release. You can download it from the cdimage.ubuntu.com, and I will give you the link in the description. And as I said, here it's only currently only the beta version is available, but you have to download it's the desktop amd64.iso. Please install the Virtualbox on your machine. Please download the ISO image, and if you do that, we can continue with the step-by-step tutorial. Okay, now that you have installed Virtualbox and you have downloaded the ISO image for Lubuntu 22.04, we can basically start the process of creating a virtual machine and installing the Lubuntu operating system on this virtual machine. For that, please start the Virtualbox on your machine. And I have already started it, and I also wanted to show you that I have also created slides for this tutorial. So basically you can download them from the website of the course. The link is given in the description, and basically you can also follow it in the slides step by step what we are doing. Or if you want to do it without the video, then you can just do the slides to get through quickly through that and understand what steps are necessary to make this installation. Now let's follow the slides basically. So we will create a new virtual machine. The new virtual machine, you have to give it a name. I will just name it SciPro because we will use it for scientific programming, and I will also say that it's a Lubuntu 22.04 operating system. And you see immediately that Virtualbox already selected here the type, the operating system type to Linux, and the version Ubuntu 64-bit, and this is exactly what we have. Then we have to decide how much memory we would like to assign to the virtual machine. I would suggest, provided you have at least 8 GB RAM on your device, I would suggest it to provide it 2 GB of 2048 MB of RAM. If you are very, very short on RAM, you can go down to 1 GB. Then once the RAM has been assigned, we have to decide whether we want to create a hard disk, which we definitely want to do because we want to store things permanently, install things permanently, and also modify things and also store those changes. So we will create a virtual hard disk. The virtual hard disk type will be the VDI image, just select the default one, and then we have to decide whether it should be dynamically allocated or fixed size, and I would suggest to use a dynamically allocated one because then basically the file which represents the hard disk will only take so much space on your actual device, on your actual hard disk, as much data it contains. If you choose fixed size, it would it would block basically the entire size, and if you don't fill it up, it's unnecessary. Now we have to decide how big the hard disk should be. 10 GB should be in theory enough. If you want to be a little bit more generous and you have place enough or space enough, you can just say 20 GB instead. If you are very short on space, you can just go with 10 or 15 instead. Now we will create the machine, and basically now we have a machine, basically a computer which we can boot. This computer has a certain display, it has a storage associated, which is this 20 GB hard disk, and in theory we could now start this computer. However, this computer doesn't have an operating system yet, so basically we would like to boot it up with a CD. So we have to insert a CD to this computer, and that we can do by editing the settings here for this virtual machine, going to the storage, and here clicking on the CD symbol, and then we will boot it with a live CD, so basically an operating system which can be started from a CD. And now we have to select the file which represents this live CD, and of course this file is the file which you just downloaded, this Lubuntu 22.04 ISO image. Here for me it already appears in the list because I did this installation a few minutes before, already once for testing things. For you, you would have probably to choose a disk file menu, and then go to the folder where the file had been stored, and basically select that file. So at the end, the important thing is that at the end, when you have selected the files here, it appears, the ISO image appears here as a CD image, and then we are just here saying okay. And then basically now we have a machine which has also a CD inserted. And then basically we are ready to start this computer. We are clicking on start, and in theory here, or in practice, you see that there's a small window appearing which may offer you the choice which kind of things you want to start, either Lubuntu or Lubuntu in safe mode or test memory. I will just choose Lubuntu, so just hit enter. If you don't do anything, after half a minute it would start Ubuntu anyway. And basically what we get is a live Lubuntu system which will run here from the CD image, and the next step will be to install it permanently on the hard drive which was associated with this machine. As you can see, the window is very small here, so therefore I will just make a trick to make it bigger, and I will go to the View and Virtual Screen menu, and I will just scale it up to 200%, then that the font sizes are a little bit bigger. Once we finish the installation, we will install the so-called guest edition, which will enable us to scale the window much more nicer as we do it here. And it will be also allow us to have arbitrary window size, and then the screen size in the Linux, in the Lubuntu distribution, would adapt to that window size, but that's only possible once the so-called guest edition had been installed. Now the system started, and basically now you could, if you wanted, you could just play around here a little bit and try out all the things this Linux distribution offers on this live CD. But we want to install it on the hard drive, so we will just start immediately with the installation by double-clicking on the Install Lubuntu icon here. In the meantime, while it starts, you can just also go through the slides and see that exactly the same steps are documented here with figures. Now the installation started, and now we are choosing the language of the operating system, and I would suggest you to use the English version, the American English version, because all the tutorial will be given in that language, but also because if you are looking for an error message or searching in the internet for an error message, the chance that you will get a match, it's much higher if you are entering the English version of this error message and not the German one, for example. We select the time zone and the region, which is already correct. The only thing I would like to fix here is the number of dates locally, which is set here to German, because I'm sitting in Germany. But I would like also to change it to American to be consistent with the language itself, which I use. So I will just select this bar, and unfortunately this bar, this button here is not really shown completely, but you can just grab it here on the side and select it. And then I'm just going to EN, so English, and I'm taking the US version, right? US UTF-8, and then basically the language and the way how the numbers are shown are consistent. Then we have to choose the keyboard layout. The keyboard layout, you choose the one which you are used to or the one which you have in front of you. I am used to the Hungarian layout. So I will here select the Hungarian one, and you can even test it whether the special characters on your keyboard are appearing as supposed. So please use the keyboard layout which you have in front of you or which you are used to, and then click on next. Now we have to select how Lubuntu should be installed, and I will go here the easiest option by erasing the entire hard drive which we are providing for Lubuntu, this 20 GB, and then basically Lubuntu will just create one single partition and put everything into that. I would like to note here that if you want to make a more professional Linux installation, you would do a manual partitioning, and you would create a home where your data sits, and other partitions where your system is located, so that you can, for example, replace the system without touching your data. But because this is just a virtual machine for this course, I will make the very, very simplest option by having one single partition only. And we will disable swap, because we won't have a large application which would require swap at all. Okay, and then basically if we have this, we can just click on next, and the last thing we have to do is just to create a user. So I will just provide my name here and a username which I like more than the one which is suggested. Also the machine name I will just simplify to something short, so I will just name it SciPro, and I will use a password which has enough characters, something like 8 or more, and a few numbers and special characters. And I will here opt for the option to being logged in automatically when the machine starts, because it's a virtual machine. This is not really a security problem, so it makes our life much more comfortable. And if that's finished, then basically here you can have a look once more at the summary of the installation, and then basically we can start to install things. There is a last confirmation check whether the installation should be really start and the disk erased, but the disk is, this hard drive is empty anyway, this 20 GB hard drive, so there is no fear. We are clicking on installation, and now the installation starts, and I think that's the best time to grab a cup of coffee, and see you later when the installation finished. Okay, now I have my cup of tea, and apparently also the installation has finished. So basically you should see now the same thing here, all done, and we can restart the system, and this is exactly what we are doing. So we are just clicking on done, and then basically Lubuntu will shut down, and it will start at the next time the operating system from the hard drive of the virtual machine. Now you must imagine this is like if you had a CD inserted into the CD slot of your virtual machine. So at some point you have to take out the CD to make sure that the next booting is happening from the hard drive, and this is exactly what Lubuntu will ask in a second. That you should enter the CD, remove the CD and hit enter, and actually at that point you can only just hit enter, and Virtualbox will basically automatically remove the CD, the ISO image from the CD drive. Now that the installation has finished, we can make the next step and basically install the guest editions. The guest editions should be installed in order to improve the interaction between the host and the guest operating system. And we will do that by going to devices and insert the guest edition CD image. When you click on that, basically the file manager pops up and asks what should be done, and basically we can just cancel it, because we will execute the commands which we need via the text interface, the so-called command shell. And that you can start by going to System Tools and opening QTerminal. Because we will use QTerminal quite a lot, I would suggest to grab it with the left button and just put it in this Quick Start menu. And then basically here you can start the QTerminal from here much easier. Okay. Now what we will do is we will go to the directory which contains the CD content, and then under Linux, whenever you put in a device, it gets part of the directory tree which starts from the root directory, and then you go, typically the CD is in media, then your username and the name of the CD. And basically I was not typing that much or that fast, but I was just typing a few letters and then pushing the tab button, which just extends the path automatically, which is a very nice feature already on then the VBox. And then you can use the same feature but using the tab button to extend paths automatically. If the extension is not unique, as here was it here at the beginning, then you can put the tab twice and you see the options, and then whenever you put the tab and the choice is unique, it will be automatically extended. And this is the content of the CD, and we will have to run this VBox Linux additions.run file. However, first we have to install a few additional packages, and that we have to use as a super user. So we will use the command sudo, which means whatever comes after that will be executed as the system administrator, and then we will using the package management of Linux. And first we have to update the package list just to make sure that it's the actual one. It will of course ask for the password, which is your personal password, and then we will just download the actual package list. And once we have it, we will just install the packages which are needed in order to be able to execute this script which I have shown before. So we will just install the packages make and Perl and GCC. And then it tells you how much it has to download and how much must be unpacked. And I have already downloaded these files in advance, so it happens quite fast for you. It may take a little bit until the packages are downloaded, but once the packages are there, they just must be unpacked, as which is exactly in progress at the moment, as you can see. Okay, so it's basically has already finished. It was quite fast, and now we can make the next step, and we can just execute this script, which will help us to compile the so-called kernel modules, which are needed in order to, as I said, improve the interaction between the host and the guest system. So just let's wait a second. For you, it should also happen right now. Now that this was successful, now let's have a look again what files we have, and we have to run this VBox Linux edition, and again we have to run it as super user. So we will say sudo / and then we want to run this VBox Linux. Again, I'm just typing the letters which are needed to make it non-unique, and then pushing the tab in order to extend it, and then basically it will start. And it will take a few minutes until these kernel modules are compiled and installed. Now the installation has finished, and we are basically done. We can just close here this window, and because it asks whether you want to close it or not, I think it's not needed to confirm it every time, so you can say do not ask again. And yes, and the only thing maybe we can do is just to eject the CD which was inserted, and then we can basically reboot our virtual machine. We can reboot our system, and if we reboot the system, then basically this guest additions should be active. That means we will see in a second. We can just resize after it has been rebooted. We should be able to resize the screen, and it should adapt to the same size. Now the shutdown has finished, and now the machine boots again. So Ubuntu is booted again. And what I will do in the meantime, I will just in the virtual screen go to 100%, because that's the native resolution. It became very, very small, but when the operating system, when the graphical system starts, then we should be able to resize it, and it should scale accordingly. So after rebooting the system with the installed guest additions, you should be now able to resize the screen, and the size in Linux should adapt automatically. You can even go to full screen by pushing the right control button and the F for full screen, and also go back the same way. So basically full screen, then you have the entire screen using the Linux, or if you go back, then you can go back to the original size or have any arbitrary size. The only thing you should note, if you switch, if you have a very big screen and with high resolution, and if you switch it full screen, it may turn black. In that case, you would have to shut down the system and then basically reconfigure the machine to have enough memory for the graphical card. And that I won't do that, but I want to show you where is the place. So basically, when you shut down the machine, you edit the settings, you go to the display, and here in the video memory, usually it starts with 33 megabyte. You can just go up to 128 megabyte, and that should be enough even to make it full screen on a high resolution 4K screen. And basically, with that, we finished the guest edition, and the only thing which we want to do is to make a shared folder between the host system and the guest system. So let's create a shared folder which we can use to exchange data and files between the machine and basically your host operating system. And this we will do by going to the settings settings menu. So basically we have to go to machine and settings, and we are going to the folder shared folders here. And then basically what we do is here we are adding a new shared folder, and first of all we are selecting the folder, the path on our host machine which we want to share. That means whatever we put into that folder, it will be visible to the Lubuntu system. And I will just select the path. In my home I have here a folder which is called VBox Share, and within VBox Share I have a folder SciPro, and basically that will be my shared folder. So whatever I copy in my host system in the folder VBox Share SciPro should be available to the Lubuntu system and vice versa. And then I will just name it VBox Share. So the folder name on the device should be VBox Share, which means on the device, which means in the Lubuntu system. And I'm just pushing OK. And however, this is not enough. I also have to make some adjustments here as shown in the slides. So basically I have to open here a window. I will just make the font size a little bit bigger that it can be seen better on in the video. And basically what I will do now is to edit a special file, the so-called etc fstub file, which is a file containing the mount information, mounting points. And I have to do it as a super user because this is something which manipulates the system. So I have to enter my password, and it will start the editor and opening this etc fstub file. And basically what you have to do is you have to enter the line which is given in the video. Now I also scale it up a little bit that you can see it better. And we just named the device VBox Share, so that's the name of the device. And then I'm pushing tab, and then I'm giving the folder where it should be mounted, and that will be Media Aradi VBox Share. So basically that we can distinguish it from the CD, and the file system is VBox SF. And then to make sure that I can edit things and write things, yes, I should write my UID there. And the UID you can find out by just maybe you can launch a different terminal. And in this terminal you can just execute ID, the ID command, and the ID command tells you what is your user ID. So it's a unique identifier of every user, and every user belongs to a group, and there was a group ID is written here. And as you can see, I have a user ID 1000 and a group ID 1000, and those two things I write here. So I have UID 1000, group ID 1000, right? And otherwise I'm just writing 0, this is the options, 0 and 2, right? And if I'm finished with that, I'm just saving this file. And then if I have saved it with Ctrl S, or you can just go to the file menu and say file menu and say save, but it's not active because I just saved it. Okay, and then I can just close it, and basically that's it. And now what I have to do is just to reboot again the machine. And if I reboot the machine, it should be available. This shared folder should be available. So let's do that. We will just reboot it again. And let's say yes. Okay, now that things have rebooted, how can I test whether this shared folder works or not? That's super simple. I will just first start here on command line window on my host machine, and then go to the folder which I selected, which was in my case VBox share SciPro. And you see with ls, I'm just showing you that I have already created here a file called test. I can just edit it also. This file, I'm just writing hello inside, and then I can just test whether I can access the same file from the virtual machine. So I'm switching to the application, to the virtual machine. I'm opening again the terminal. I will just increase the font size a little bit so that you can see it, and then I will go to the /media arade vbox share, we called it, and you see there is the file test, and if I just show the content, it contains indeed hello. So basically whatever I copy into this folder on the Lubuntu, it will be available on my host system, and whatever I copy into this folder on my host system will be available in Lubuntu. So this folder is shared between the two systems, and this way you can very easily exchange data between the two systems. And with that, basically the installation of the Lubuntu is more or less finished. And now we have a working system, and this is basically the status from which we will start in the next tutorials. Thank you for your attention.